but those two guys with a smile on their face at the end of the week, the 6 automatic qualifiers for Team USA, 3 Ryder Cup rookies, Damon.
Yeah, I see a lot of quality here, and I think that you got Scotty Scheffler now #1 in qualifying, #1 in the FedEx Cup. Wyndham Clark, what a June he had at the Los Angeles Country Club. Brian Harmon, 58 for 59, inside 10 feet putting. Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele, we've seen them pair together beautifully like a nice Merlot and a steak. And, of course, Max Homa undefeated at the President's Cup. I mean, that's a strong 6. I think Zach Johnson would be pleased.
I think he would be very pleased. It's also interesting to have 3 rookies of the 6 qualify, but then you float back a couple years ago, and Steve Stricker had 6 rookies out of his 12-man team. So there is precedent for having a lot of rookies and being successful. Very different if it's on American soil when you're going to Team Europe. But those guys have been playing well. A lot of them are obviously carrying that good form into this part of the year. So I think he'd be very pleased. I think 2 months ago, not exactly the 6 we would have thought to have been AQs. I mean, Brooks barely slides out to 7. You had Wyndham Clark and Brian Harmon, the last 2 major champs, make huge jumps.
Yes.
Wyndham, when I was chatting with him earlier this week, said in February that was the last thing on his mind, was considering the Ryder Cup.
He's like, what?
And now he's an automatic qualifier. So I think the team has changed a lot at the top since the beginning of the summer.
Still a lot to be determined as well. Let's take a look at the timeline, what you want to pay attention to over the next couple of weeks. So as mentioned, 6 have qualified after the BMW. Now, Zach Johnson has to make 6 captain's picks a week from Tuesday. That's August the 29th. And then European Ryder Cup qualification ends September the 3rd. 6 automatically qualify for Europe as well. Then Luke Donald will make his 6 captain's picks the next day, September 4th. And the Ryder Cup, of course, Marco Simone Golf and Country Club near Rome, September the 29th through October the 1st. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of put our little stamp, our imprint on who we think should be Zach's picks at this point. And this was tough for me. I don't envy Zach. I've got Colin. Colin, listen, clinching point, Wisconsin went 3-0-1. Jordan Spieth, he's the golden child. I think he's almost always going to be there. Brooks Koepka, listen, he won what could be called the flagship event of the PGA of America, the PGA Championship. Played great at the Masters. What Ricky Fowler, what a comeback story. Sam Burns won the match play. I was there in Austin, saw it with my own eyes. Great friends with Scotty Scheffler. And, of course, Lucas Glover, the story of the past month, in my opinion, in professional golf. My first out is Keegan Bradley. My second out is Justin Thomas. But those are my 6 at this point.
All right, let's take a look at my 6. Some similarities, some different. Had Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth. I mean, both with winning records, have been part of victorious Ryder Cup teams. Cameron Young, I know he's kind of hot or cold as far as people thinking he's going to be in the mix or not. I think at 9th, he's played his way on to the team. He's said, I want to rate this year as a C-. It's probably a B. Just harken back a year ago to the eagle he made at St. Andrews on the 72nd hole. He's a very chill guy. He can run hot with his own game. I think he'd thrive in a road environment if you pair him with the right guy. And with his putting and what he can do off the tee, I think it would be a good formula for sure. Colin Morikawa looked good in 2021. The last 2, which I think it's like you have 10 where you feel pretty good about it, and I don't envy Zach Johnson. This is only going to get harder after this week. I was then looking at, 2018 Ryder Cup. All we did was go on either like form or big name and didn't think, what are the guys that we would want to optimize our chances of winning in France with a narrow course, narrow fairways, rough up. And we just went with big name star power, and we got trounced there. So I think Keegan Bradley, a guy historically who's good off the tee, and then it was hard either thinking Ricky Fowler or Lucas Glover. Lucas Glover's played in 2 President's Cups, was 2-6. Didn't have a great record, but that was 15 years ago. So I don't know how much stock you put in that. So Ricky was probably the last guy I'd consider. Bryson DeChambeau and Justin Thomas could also be in the conversation. Bryson, the last time it was on the road, was winless. And I think that's the big thing, is you're picking 12 players that give you the best chance of winning. You look at the U.S. captain's picks combined record in 2018 and 2014. 2018, for Jim Furyk. They went 2-10.
It was awful.
DeChambeau, Mickelson, Woods, all winless. Tony Finau at least went 2-1. 2014, Keegan Bradley, Hunter Mahan, Webb Simpson, 2-5-2. Downright terrible. You combine those, they've gone 4-15-2. So who are the players that are best suited for that course, who will also fit in the team room, who are also trending in the right direction? Those are the 6 who should be picked, because at the end of the day, all that matters, who gives you the best chance to win?
Well, on this point, 2018 and 2014 didn't have Live Golf. Now we have Live Golf as a part of this story. It's not just about the golf course setup. It's also about cohesion and chemistry. Brooks Koepka, we both have him on this team, even though he's not an automatic qualifier. What was the decision-making in your mind on why he should be a part of Zach Johnson's squad?
He has a winning record. He's played well this season. I think he's had a conciliatory stance when it comes to meshing with guys on the PGA Tour. I don't think he really cares that much, or the guys that he sees in Jupiter care that much. To me, if you think a guy can fit into the team room, who cares what tour he plays on? You're trying to win the Ryder Cup. At the end of the day, that's all that should matter. You're going to have us media types asking questions Tuesday and Wednesday. If the U.S. is up 9-7, on Saturday, do you think they're really going to be like, hey, Captain Johnson, what did you think of Brooks's prep at Live Golf Bedminster? No, you're going to say, okay, well, how have the pairings worked with Brooks? What do you expect on Sunday Signals? Is he going to go out third, or is he going to be second to last? So if you think a guy's potentially a huge distraction, I don't think Brooks would be, then you have to weigh certain personality types, which I know Steve Stricker did in 2021. The tour thing doesn't really concern me. It's more, how does a guy mix in to a team room with 12 guys for that week? Yeah. Europe has taken very different personalities, guys who didn't necessarily love hanging with each other week in and week out on the European Tour, DP World Tour, PGA Tour. They make it work for that week. The U.S. team, that's the same thing they have to do. What was your thought process?
Yeah, Brooks has not been an antagonistic personality when it comes to this PGA Tour v. Live, I guess, past, we'll call it. He has been honest about the issues that he had. Injury, loss of confidence were the reasons that he went. He didn't kick the door down, didn't burn the building down on the way out of it like some players have. I think had he had a different tack and a different tone, it would be a different decision. I think his quality of golf is too good. He's a 5-time major champ. He's a Brahma Bull. You're going on the road. You want to bring your best. This isn't a PGA Tour event. It's a PGA of America event as far as the United States is concerned. I think had he had a different tone and different tack and different voice on the way out the door, I might have a different choice. I think he's too good to leave at home.
And I know some people are going to say, how could you not pick Bryson DeChambeau? He was
that's a difference. I have no problem. Listen,
and
big hitter, major champ.
Correct. 58 at Greenbrier.
You're bringing the circus. So that's the thing. That's the thing that Zach Johnson has to weigh. Every great coach in sports has to weigh distractions. It's about minimizing distractions. I think at this point where we sit in 2023, if Bryson DeChambeau is on that plane, I think the entire media storm will be different. I think those press conferences will be different. I think Zach Johnson has to do everything he can to minimize distractions. I don't think Brooks Koepka is as much of a distraction as Bryson DeChambeau would be. And some of that's just personality. You know, Bryson DeChambeau is a wonderful golfer. And I think he's trying to mature and has shown some improvement in that.
Bryson had the best moment of the 2021 Ryder Cup, driving the first hole.
I was there. It was remarkable.
Had a winning record.
It was beautiful.
The reason I wouldn't pick Bryson, and I'm less concerned about the overall distraction volume, but I agree that he would be more so than Brooks would be. If you're weighing the two apples to apples. His game was a terrible fit for that venue in 2018. Winless.
Yes.
He blasts it, bombs it off the tee. They're probably going to have the exact same formula if you're Europe.
Shrink the course.
That's not Bryson's
Dog-leg it up.
Necessarily.
Yeah.
So that's why I would have some trepidation where is his game plus the volume that would accompany it the best fit for that course to help Team USA win. I don't know, but he would be on that list of 3 or 4 guys just on the outside where it warrants Zach Johnson having a conversation with him if he picks him or doesn't pick him and just saying, here's why you were close, or here's why you're the last guy in.
Close, hope you root for us from afar. I don't envy Zach Johnson over the next couple of weeks. Very, very difficult.